If you ask 100 Alice in Chains fans to name the band's definitive album, 95 of them would say Dirt. And they're not wrong. Dirt is a masterpiece that perfectly maps out the chemical decay of the human body into music. But I'm going to make a controversial argument. Their best work wasn't a full album at all. It was an accidental EP, recorded in just 7 days by a band that was technically homeless at the time. While Dirt is the sound of a man screaming at his demons, this record is the sound of a man sitting with them. It proves that Alice in Chains weren't just grunge caricatures, but sophisticated composers who could crush you acoustically just as hard as they could with heavy distortion. To understand the sound, you have to look back at the logistics. In September 1993, the band just returned to Seattle after an intense summer run on Lollapalooza. They arrive home exhausted, only to find they've been evicted from their residence for unpaid rent. They're effectively homeless, so they book time at London Bridge Studio, not to make a hit record, but to have a place to stay for a while. They walked in with 0 songs written, no pre-production, no plan, just a pile of acoustic guitars and an open schedule. They treated expensive studio time like a casual jam session, just to see what would happen. There's something there that speaks to the grunge spirit in my opinion, the ability to turn apathy and dysfunction into high art. When they started playing, the apathy dissipated. They wrote and recorded the entire 7-song EP in 1 week, 14-hour days, just pure stream of consciousness output that shed the metal armor they usually hid behind. Musically, Jar of Flies is a masterclass in atmosphere and ambiance. Since they couldn't rely on that wall of noise that defined Facelift, they had to use texture. Take the opener, Rotten Apple. It starts with a talk box that makes your spine shiver, like you're riding through a woozy, psychedelic boneyard. Then, Mike Inez's bass line drops in, filling the low mids where the electric guitars usually sit. It sets a tone that is murky, aquatic, and deeply claustrophobic. Then you have Nutshell. This is arguably the most important song in their catalog. The arrangement is distinct, the progression is hypnotic, but the technical peak is I Stay Away. This track proves Jerry Cantrell was a composer, not just a killer riff writer. They brought in a string section, arranging violins and cellos to climb over the acoustics. In 1994, grunge bands didn't use violins. That didn't seem cool. But the juxtaposition of those strings against Lane's ethereal, multi-tracked harmonies created a sound that was completely unique. It was pure melancholic mastery. The engineering by Toby Wright is also crucial. The mix is incredibly spacious, and you can hear the squeak of the guitar strings. It captures the intimacy of the sessions, making you feel like you're sitting in the room with them. When Jar of Flies was released in January 1994, it made history. It became the first EP to ever debut at #1 on the Billboard 200. Think about that. An accidental collection of acoustic sad songs, written in a week by a band on the verge of collapse, outsold everything else in America. So why is it their best album? Because Dirt captures the anger of the era, but Jar of Flies captures the soul and the feel of the band. It proves you don't need volume to be heavy. The emotional weight of Nutshell and No Excuses hits just as hard as the heaviest riffs on Facelift. That concludes this one, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, is Jar of Flies their peak, or are you a Dirt purist? Make sure to check out Sub Iconic for rock and roll t-shirts and artwork. Link in the description. If you have any suggestions, email me at contact.duffer@gmail.com. I'll see you in the next one.